I'm the biggest fan of your guys' program, and I stand by what I say. It was the best decision I've made. But without the guidance from the program, without the guidance from the leadership on your guys' staff, we wouldn't know where to go.
All right. So, hey, everyone, I have Sam here, and he recently just graduated or ended his time in the group. And he has a great thing that I haven't heard yet. So, I'm in a surprise as well. But I know he has some amazing wins to share. So, Sam, let's start it, man. First question, what were your hesitations before joining the program?
Yeah. Okay. So I would say accurately, the biggest hesitations would be the money would be the primary one. And then knowing that there would be a big commitment that I have to pull through with would be number two. And those would probably be the top two concerns that I had. And I would say those got alleviated through using the free material from the podcast and the website, and then through conversations with Han.
Right. Han was your reboot strategist, right?
Yes.
All right. So, thanks for sharing that. So what were your specific results you got from working either with just JK, the material, or did you do like Milan stuff as well, like the other reboot coaches?
Yeah, I focused just on JK's and just on Elevated Recovery program. I actually started, so it's been over a year, and what had taken place was there was the release of a work group calendar for planning your year out in advance. And that came out just when I joined the program. And I would attribute a lot of success to the combination of working through a yearly planner and following the program. And those were the two primary things that I followed.
Okay, nice. And what specific results did you get? Did you notice anything improving we use your reboot capital in a sense? Your social life improve or any other area that you noticed?
Yeah, so I'm very thankful to have experienced improvement in a lot of categories. So again, going with that calendar, I had made a purpose to work on social life, to work on professional life, to work on romantic, interrelational life, and professional. I guess I said that already, professional. And so what I experienced in social was I had noticed a tendency where I gravitated away from social events in the years prior. And so I made it a point to start going to more social events. This was, let's say I started the program in January. So I made it a point to go to a lot of social events. And despite me being uncomfortable, it was just in regards to get more face time with people. And so I joined a Facebook group in the local city I live in, a singles group, and they would put together a lot of events, not necessarily for just singles, male and female, as a mixer, but just events happening in the city because I live in a nice city. And so I started going to those events, and several of them were just all male get-togethers. Several were male and female mixer types. And I would normally be a recluse and not go to these events. And so what this did was just get me interacting with people. And I made it a point that I would join either a club or a group that calendar year within the first 6 months of that calendar year. And what ended up happening was I engaged in a lot of those events, made a lot of friends, did with females, which is something I had not been doing consistently. And it changed the way that I approached events as far as my social confidence. My social confidence improved from doing that. Personally or professionally, I made it a goal to reach a promotion for that calendar year or that fiscal year, and also to achieve milestones at work. I ended up achieving that promotion despite having a pretty good injury that set me back, and I achieved all those milestones plus more. Romantically, I wanted to be able to be in a relationship that calendar year and to date someone. And I ended up finding a friend of mine because of those engagements with the social events and having more presence with my friends and being out of the house more and engaged more. I know inherently my friends saw that, and one of my close friends set me up with a client of his, and I've been dating that girl for 7 or so months now. And it's been a very powerful relationship, and it's been very good for both of us. I'm super thankful for that. And I made some educational goals. The one goal that I didn't achieve was purchasing a house this year, and that was within my financial goals. The one sub goal that I did achieve financially was to engage in a second job and then to work my way up through that. And I did achieve that. And then all of that I interweaved, or I built around the actual elevated recovery program. And so as I was moving along the program, doing different modules, practicing my routines and checklists, I would have something that I could practice out in the real world, right? Because there was a lot of reading done, there was a lot of work on the computer, and I wanted to make sure that I was practicing these skills on the outside, because as we know from education or literature, I can read all that I want, but unless I'm applying those principles in the real world, I'm not going to see the true fruits of the labor. So to answer your question, I would say in those areas, I experienced some really favorable results.
Man, those are great results, man, within a year span. You got your romance, you got into a relationship, your career, and financial as well. And you're right, like, piggybacking what you said about when you read, it's like, you just don't want to store up knowledge, right? And I took this away from when I heard someone speak, like, for every chapter you read, there should be at least 3 hours of application minimum, towards something you do. So I always took that to heart. And that's why it takes me a long time to finish books, because I generally want to apply it and not just, I feel good. I read something and I feel good, but ultimately I don't really do anything about it. So that's good, man. I'm glad you started implementing that stuff. And hey, man, last question. Would you recommend this program to others?
Oh, 100%. No hesitation. I've done it at work. Right? So,
That's awesome.
It may seem funny, right? But in my work environment, addiction is very common, whether in the forms of alcohol, drugs, or pornography. And it's primarily male environment as well. And you asked the question, do I recommend it? Yes. So I mention it in the workplace because I know it's so prevalent, and I know it's like an uncomfortable conversation at first, because it took me a long time to reach this point. I had an addictive compulsive behavior for 20 years, and I was reluctant to change. And I fortunately never reached a true rock bottom where it affected me in a lawful way, like trouble with the law or like a major crisis where I lost something. I was very fortunate never to experience that. But I will say that I'm not naive to think that I wasn't far from that, right? Because 20 years is a long time. And I recommend this program because us men will think that we can solve this on our own if we apply enough. If I watch enough of these YouTube videos, if I watch and listen to enough podcasts. I didn't do I did the implementation program. I didn't do what's the program that works one-on-one?
Oh, the intensive?
Intensive, right?
Yeah.
So I just couldn't afford the intensive, but I was like, I need to make a change to this. I'll do the implementation. I kind of hesitated with it. I was like, man, I feel like this is expensive, but in reality, I would do it again. And I stand by what I say. It was the best decision I've made. I would say top 2 decisions I've made in my life.
Wow.
I'll leave one open for whatever. But I'd say it's the top 2 decisions I ever made in my life, because I'm not naive to the fact where I know where I would have been a year down the line had I not done this. And it's not to put all the glory on the program, because you got a bunch of individuals that are working through this with the guidance of you guys, and that's what makes this work. Is we're not alone doing this. We have leadership, we have mentorship through this. And as you guys say, the community on the Facebook is an aid for each other, because we need our accountability partners, but it's everyone working together for the greater good. And there's so much that can happen through that. But without the guidance from the program, without the guidance from the leadership on your guys' staff, we wouldn't know where to go. Right. And just the program alone is amazing, because those principles that you guys teach through the program, I bring those up in the conversations, and I can see changes take place in my friends' lives, even if it's the smallest thing of them pivoting a direction that they think. So yeah, I would easily, and I would definitely recommend the program.
Wow, thank you, man. That's some powerful stuff, dude. Because even you're right. And I see this, and you're right. It's like you kind of already change your self-image in a kind of rapid way, where you're just like, hey, man, I know this will work. And when you speak, it's because you tested it, right? So I apply what I learned and the principles, the REBOOT tools, whatever. And then when others see that, they see that in you, right? It's not like another BS, quick scheme or gimmick, like, 90 days and that's it. It's like far beyond that, right? And I'm sure you probably got into a point where you're like, you know what, the videos to me back a year ago was the main issue, or the masturbating, whatever. But now it's more like, whoa, how could I improve this area of my life, or this, or how could I give back and help others that are struggling where I was a year ago? Amazing to see that in you, man. That's awesome, bro.
Yeah, there's milestones and there's lessons that I wouldn't have realized without doing it. Like we'll just talk about relapses for a mental, emotional, and physical. That principle applies to a lot of things, not just necessarily this addictive behavior. And so had I not done those lessons, I wouldn't move to a point where I can be on my checklist, or I can see these things happening as they occur and prevent it. And those lessons I keep with me, and they've helped so much. Now, that is not to detract from the point where I've reached some very bad lows during the program. And I think that's so important. What you guys teach is progress over perfection. I would think that I hold myself to a perfectionist level, but I really don't. But I would have that as a problem. As soon as I started detracting from perfection, I would get very upset, and emotionally I would be like, oh, this is all for naught. But what I did from the very beginning was like, hey, you know what? I'm not counting days anymore. I'm looking for progress over perfection. And so the biggest area that I struggled in was when I would get sick, or I would be off of work for some reason, and I would be laid up in my room. Those are the times that I would struggle the hardest. And I would talk to Han, I talked to my REBOOT strategist, and we came up with a plan. Hey, these are the times that you're very weak and susceptible. And no matter how much physical barriers you put up, no matter how much planning you have to realize a setup and a practice and a plan prior to getting to these instances. And so you recognize that and avoid it. Without that, it would just be every day's a new day, and I just come up with a way to succeed each day, as opposed to, hey, let me already see myself successful. And if I do relapse, if I do slip, as you guys say, it's data. Let me use that so I can move forward and not do the same mistakes again. And in my line of work, I have to do that already to learn from the mistakes and not repeat them, because someone's life could be on the line.
Right.
And so it all related and it all makes sense. But again, me being an individual and just using free material, I'm not going to get that. I need to get it from the resources that are there, live people, live programs, live conversations. And in a digital world, I'm very anti-digital world, but I understand that it happens. And so I have to exist with it. And there's a nice blend that you guys come up with. But you didn't tell me to say any of this stuff. No one's told me to say this. I'm the biggest fan of your guys' program, because it's a very hard subject.
Oh yeah.
It's very hard to change. The number one trait I admire in people are those that are adults and they already live a life, and they have a question. Maybe I'm not doing things correctly. They witness something, or they have a conversation and they question some belief that they have or actions that they have, and they incorporate a change in their behavior, because it's very hard to change our behavior as adults. So I admire anyone that works through in this program, because it's very difficult to do. And I would say it would near impossible on your own, and you need assistance. And with the assistance, it alleviates and strengthens you so much with the community.
Wow, man, these some awesome words here, and I appreciate you sharing everything. And so, hey, brother, thank you for allowing us and taking the time to share your experience, which this video speaks for itself. The system works if you stick to it, right? You persevere, and like what this brother said, you're gonna have some lows, and that's okay. We're human. We're gonna experience highs, lows, and eventually you're gonna get to a point where, hey, I'm just essentially living life, and I don't have to react to it, and I could just be proactive still, regardless of how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, brother, appreciate your time. And for anyone watching, thanks for watching. And hey, hopefully we'll see you in the implementation group or in the intensive. So hey, have a good one. And thanks, brother. Thanks for sharing.